last time I was covering this matchup, I was covering it in the form of using Demolishers and I think Headhunters and some weird strategy to actually counter Druids of Talon. But this is the cookie cutter way of doing it. However, you know, being in this matchup, I don't think that Demolishers wouldn't be a bad addition to this, because they have the range. They're able to do, especially when Druids of Talon are all clumped up in the fight, when we see winners or his units are going to be clumped up a good amount. The splash damage from those Demolisher are actually going to do a good bit of damage there. So just adding one or two maybe, especially it's going to help the siege in when if you're having to fight into a base or take out an expansion. They're good to mix in. They get focused on relatively easily, even because they're kind of weak units. The Druids of Talon can easily pick them off relatively easily. But if you're going to be bringing peons along, heck, you can even use your peons to repair them, you know, to help them out. So maybe mixing in Demolishers, kind of a weird strategy. I kind of went off on a tangent there. Obviously, Focus is a way better player than me, and definitely a better Orc player than most of the Orc players out there. So I would trust his decisions in this matchup rather than mine. But you know, something to mix in for the average level of play might be a little bit more beneficial to be able to have that extra DPS of the Demolishers. It's similar to what a human player would do with mortar teams to counter out, you know, casters or dryads or something like that. You know, a lot of creeping going on in this matchup, and again, it's a little slower placed. Again, because the last matchup we saw Soju being very, very active and very, very aggressive in his fight, whereas in this matchup with Focus versus Winners, it's a little bit less aggressive, and both players opting for a more creepy kind of get my heroes up in levels kind of build. And again, both players often be going for this expansion, which we didn't see in the last matchup as well. So I really think that if Focus was able to get the core army that he wanted in this versus Soju, he probably would have had a better chance. So this is kind of a bad thing, because Druids of Talon are now slowly losing their effectiveness. He's having to get these fairy dragons to help counter the effect, or again counter the spirit walkers using Spirit Link and using Disenchant, and counter the shockwave coming off by the Tauren Chieftain. So he's having to have to mix more in, and as the game goes longer and the Orc player gets more and more units, it's going to be harder for that, even more difficult for the Druids of Talon to focus fire individual units and bring them down, especially because, you know, their hit points aren't getting any higher. They're 380 hit points. That's not a lot. Shockwave is still going to be effective, and then if that Tauren Chieftain gets to level 5, it's going to be even more effective. We're going to have level 3 Shockwave on those guys. I don't think Scroll of Healing is going to help too much in that. However, in this case, the same as Soju's matchup. Scroll of Healing on Beastmaster, Scroll of Healing on that Demon Hunter, and that Tinkerer also has one as well. So in the last matchup, I don't think we saw Soju picking that up. So 3 Scrolls of Healing, that's going to allow his Druids of the Talon to stay in the fight relatively long and take up a few of those shockwaves. So those Scrolls of Healing, again, just to counteract the effect of shockwave, as I repeated probably like 1,000 times so far in this one. A nice item that was picked up on the Blade Master, and he was able to sell off his Boots of Speed because of it. He gets on a Holy Aura in the form of the Legion Doomhorn, and a Holy Aura stacked with the Doran Sword is really, really nice. That's going to allow his units to move very, very quickly and get that added regeneration, you know. So it's a nice item to have. Really nice pickup, and because he was able to sell off the Boots of Speed, that gave him a little bit more resources to either buy invest more in his army, or start his expansion up, or buy even more items. So there's a lot of itemed up heroes here. Legion Doomhorn even on his Tauren Chieftain, which is really, really nice. Again, stacking up these auras is going to be really effective, as we only have Trusha Aura from the Alaria's Flute of Accuracy on the Beastmaster for the Night Elf. So definitely better items here on Focus's side, which I think is going to have a big influence on this fight here, though. These auras here, combined with Spirit Link, it's going to give his units a lot of survivability, which is what he needs. He needs that survivability so he can let his heroes go in there and kill off Winner's army. So this fight's going to be happening here. Again, this is kind of the middle of the map here. Both players deciding where they want to start the fight off. Eventually, Winners is going to send off a few of his Druids of Talon to start off the fight. Whoever wins this is obviously going to win this matchup, and as we said earlier, Focus is going to end up winning it. So he picks off some of these Druids of Talon. The suicide attack goes off, killing all of those fairy dragons. So now he doesn't have to worry about fairy dragons, and now that he doesn't have to worry about it, he can freely cast Shockwave, although that Shockwave wasn't necessarily a very good one. There's a lot of Druids of the Talon in the back there. But he's now able to freely morph in and out his Spirit Walkers. He's able to use Spirit Link. He's able to disenchant freely and not have to worry about Cyclone being that effective on his heroes. So a Scroll of Healing cast to try to counteract that little bit of Shockwave that was used on the Tauren Chieftain, and Mana Burn going off on the Tauren Chieftain again to try to stop it. The Tauren Chieftain has the Potion of Mana and was able to cast it or pop that mana pot, immediately cast a Shockwave, and not have to worry about that mana burn. He does have another Potion of Mana as well, so he's going to be able to use that to very, very good effectiveness. And Snare going off on the Tinker, which is, again, one of those really good targets here. Although the Tinker did have that Potion of Vulnerability, he wasn't able to get it off in time, I don't think, unless he passed it to the Demon Hunter. So yeah, you know, and Snare not necessarily used to focus on, and the Raiders not necessarily used to focus on the Druid of Talon. They're more for control on those heroes and things like that. So it's working out really, really well. TP is forced here on winner side. Taking a look at food counts, they're actually relatively even here, so that was a good move to TP there. Now, as the Orc player doesn't have a lot of mana on his heroes, he used both mana pots on that Tauren Chieftain. Tauren Chieftain level 5, so we are going to have that level 3 Shockwave I was talking about earlier. Very, very effective to counter it. Taking a look at gold, however, the Night Elf player has to res his Tinker, which is going to come up relatively quickly, but he doesn't have that much resources, even though he does have that expansion. And the Orc player has a little bit more. He's going to be able to pick up those Scrolls of Healing again from the Goblin Merchant when they become available. And it's going to be a little bit more of an investment for the Night Elf player to do that. So, again, I think these Druids of Talon are kind of losing their effectiveness. Whenever you saw Moon using those Druids of Talon, you know, back in the day when it was, you know, the craziest strategy in the world to be using, you know, he was always getting those Scrolls of Healing, and he actually made the fights happen a lot earlier than what we see these players using their fights happening now too. So again, losing their effectiveness as the game proceeds on. The Orc players again getting more and more powerful. We got level 5 Blade Master and level 5 Tauren Chieftain. It's going to be very difficult for these Druids of Talon to kind of stand up to that. That Blade Master ever gets level 6, you know, Blade Storm, the Blade Master's ultimate is going to be very, very effective at picking them off again, because the nature of the Druids of Talon is to be very tightly clumped up. Again, see how tightly clumped up they were, and the Tauren Chieftain was able to easily get a nice Shockwave off. And now, since the Night player only has that, no, he does have this 2 Scrolls of Healing, so that's nice. Gonna be able to help counter off the Shockwave again. If you're having trouble in this matchup and you're not iteming up your heroes, if anything you want to learn from this audio commentary is definitely item up your heroes. Take advantage of that Goblin Merchant up, especially if you're on maps like Turtle where you have that Goblin Merchant available to you. You know, you pick up that Scrolls of Healing. You know, they're not picking up the Scroll Protection, obviously, in this matchup is not as effective when you have Disenchant coming off from the Spirit Walkers. So I think the Night player got a little bit crazy there. He ends up morphing his units into Crow form at the last second there, and he kind of lost a little bit of control, and he realized that he was in a losing fight and ends up leaving the matchup there. So that was it for this audio commentary. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and I hope you guys don't end up fighting it as an Orc player. I hope you guys don't end up having to lose too much to Druids of the Talon if it becomes a threat nowadays. Again, those are 2 separate Night Elf players doing the same exact strategy in the same exact way, and you know, it's hard to determine what was the winning factors in there. I think Focus being able to last in the match a lot longer and being able to item up his heroes and get those hero levels really had a big effect, whereas in the last matchup, Soju kept Focus down and he wasn't able to do that. So for United players, attack early with your Druids of the Talon, keep tabs on that Orc opponent, don't let him get his hero levels up. You know, try to get those Scrolls of Healing from the shop. As an Orc player, again, you want to do the same thing. Just you know, watch these 2 replays again if you want without the audio commentary, just to kind of watch it on 8x speed, trying to catch some things that you might have missed, and see how you can, you know, compare it to your own matches, things like that. So, thank you for listening. Systemshark signing out.